The year was 2781 by the old Terran calendar, though almost no one still used it. The Combined Galactic Fleet hung in the void above the dying red sun of Kaelis-IX, its once proud battle line fractured into bleeding fragments. 43 capital ships had jumped in to stop the Vhorlath Swarm. Only 19 remained combat effective, and effective was generous. The rest were drifting tombs or burning pyres. Admiral Kresh Varsalari, a six-limbed Seerith with obsidian scales, stared at the tactical holo with all four eyes. The Vhorlath didn't fight like living things. They were a self-replicating lattice of crystalline biomechs that devoured matter to grow more of themselves. Each ship they destroyed became raw material for a dozen new frigates. The more you hurt them, the stronger they became. The Sereth had learned that the hard way at Proxima Reach. The Tainari had learned it at the Battle of Hollow Vale. Now the combined fleet was learning it again. Shields on the Dawn's Lament are at 7%, reported Commander Lyra, her feathered crest flat against her skull in defeat. They're asking permission to ram the hive carrier. Denied, Kresh rasped. We need every gun we have left. Tell them to fall back behind the Resolute and prepare for micro-jump. There would be no jump. Everyone knew it. The Vhorlath had seeded the system with gravitic interdiction webs. Nothing with a warp coil could leave. The fleet was trapped inside a cage of its own gravity. On the main viewer, a Vhorlath hive ship the size of a moon cracked open like a blooming flower of black glass. From its center poured a storm of boarding spores, each the size of a fighter, each carrying 1,000 blade-limbed drones. They accelerated toward the wounded fleet at 0.4 degrees Celsius. Kresh closed her middle eyes. All ships, it has been the highest honor. The spores were 3 minutes from impact. Then reality tore. It wasn't an explosion. It wasn't a weapon discharge. A jagged wound simply opened in space itself, 30,000 kilometers off the fleet's port flank. An impossible slash of violet-white fire edged with colors that had no names. The tear was 3 kilometers long and growing. Gravity sensors screamed. Light bent around it like water around a stone. From the wound tumbled a ship. It was tiny by modern standards. Barely 180 meters from bow to stern, matte black, no visible engines, no registry glyphs, no energy signature at all. It looked primitive, almost laughably so, like something out of the pre-expansion era. A single word designation was stenciled on the hull in faded white paint: Eclipse. The tier snapped shut behind it with a soundless thunderclap that rattled every hull in the system. Every sensor officer in the fleet forgot the Vhorlath for 6 full seconds. Then the little black ship woke up. Its running lights flared blood red. A voice, male, human, impossibly calm, broadcast on the open emergency band in flawless galactic common. This is Lieutenant Commander Elias Kane, Terran Navy, prototype vessel Eclipse. I am reading a Vhorlath infestation, requesting tactical uplink and fire coordination. Someone point me at the bad guys. Admiral Kresh's crest flared in disbelief. Human? That species has been extinct for 4 centuries. Apparently not all of them, Lyra whispered. On the main hollow, the Eclipse rolled once, aligned its nose with the incoming spore wave and accelerated. No visible thrust. It simply decided to be somewhere else and was. In 2.8 seconds, it reached 0.62 degrees Celsius. Inertial dampeners shouldn't have allowed a living pilot to survive that. Physics shouldn't have allowed the hull to survive that. The Eclipse opened fire. No one in the fleet had ever seen weapons like it. Jagged lances of pure white energy leapt from emitters that hadn't been there a moment earlier. Where they touched Vhorlath crystal, matter simply ceased, converted instantly to tachyons and gone. No debris, no explosion, just absence. 1 lance. 50 spores vanished. Second lance, 100. The Eclipse danced through the swarm like a shark through minnows, sliding between targets at relativistic speed, erasing thousands of drones per second. The hive ship tried to bring its main shard cannons to bear. The Eclipse was already behind it. A single weapon port eye-rised open on the black ship's spine. Something coiled and violet gathered inside. Then a beam the width of a destroyer leapt out and punched straight through the hive ship's core. The hive ship did not explode. It folded. Every crystalline lattice inverted, collapsed into a pinpoint, and imploded into a micro-singularity that lasted 0.7 seconds before evaporating in a silent flash of Hawking radiation. The remaining spores, suddenly leaderless, went inert and began to drift. The battle for Kaelis-IX was over in 4 minutes and 31 seconds. Silence ruled the command deck of every surviving ship. Finally, Admiral Kresh found her voice. "Lieutenant Commander Kane, this is Admiral Vhorlath. On behalf of the Combined Galactic Fleet, you have our eternal gratitude. May I ask, how?" A low chuckle came over the channel. "Long story, Admiral. Permission to come aboard the Resolute? I've been asleep for a very long time, and I could murder a cup of coffee. 4 hours later, flag briefing room, CGS Resolute." Elias Kane looked almost insultingly human. 2 arms, 2 legs, no scales, no feathers, no bioluminescence. Just pale skin, dark hair beginning to grey at the temples, and storm-grey eyes that had clearly seen too much. He wore a black uniform that looked like it belonged in a museum case labelled 21st 24th Century Terran Military. A silver eagle sat on each collar. He was drinking replicated coffee like it was the first good thing that had happened to him in centuries. Around the table sat Admiral Kresh, 3 other flag officers, the fleet's chief scientist Dr. Vren, a gaseous being contained in a magnetic bottle, and a very nervous intelligence officer. Kane set the mug down. "You want the short version or long?" "Long," Kresh said without hesitation. "We just watched you erase a Vhorlath hive fleet single-handed. We will give you whatever time you require." Kane leaned back. "Fair enough. You know about the Terran Exodus War?" Every being at the table nodded slowly. Even 400 years later, the Exodus War was the cautionary tale told to children. Humanity, cornered by its own rogue AIs, had cracked open the walls between universes looking for an escape route. They found something on the other side that didn't like visitors. The war that followed lasted 11 days and ended with Sol going supernova and every human colony vanishing overnight. The galaxy assumed the species had been annihilated. "Most of us were," Kane said quietly. "But Fleet Command had a contingency. Project Looking Glass. They took 5,000 volunteers, pilots, marines, scientists, froze us in stasis, and loaded us onto automated prototype ships. The plan was to punch through the rift, ride out whatever storm was on the other side, then come home with data that might save Earth. We punched through. The storm was worse than anyone predicted. Reality there doesn't like straight lines, doesn't like causality the way we do. Time loops, entire ships aging backward, crew members remembering battles that hadn't happened yet. My ship, the Eclipse, was the only one with the new phase drive. Experimental nonsense that let us exist slightly out of sync with local space-time. We used it to surf the chaos. Everyone else didn't make it. I set the autopilot to bring me back when the rift stabilized. Apparently that took 412 years. Dr. Vren's bottle pulsed bright blue. Your weapon systems, the White Lances, the Violet Coil, those are not based on any known principle. Not plasma, not antimatter, not even gravitic shear. Kane smiled without humor. We call it nullfire. It doesn't destroy matter. It deletes the quantum waveform that says the matter was ever there in the first place. We needed something that could kill things that don't respect conservation laws. A long silence. Admiral Kresh finally spoke. "Commander, humanity is a ghost story to us, a warning from history. And yet you just saved 19 capital ships and 100,000 lives. What will you do now?" Kane looked out the viewport at the drifting wreckage of the Vhorlath. "I was bred and built to fight monsters, Admiral. Looks like the galaxy still has plenty." He stood. "My ship's fabricators are already printing new power cells. Give me a day to run diagnostics, and I'll take the war to them. The Vhorlath want to eat this universe? Fine. I've got 4 centuries of sleep to catch up on, and I'm feeling cranky." 6 months later, the Battle of the Obsidian Veil. The Vhorlath had never encountered anything they could not assimilate. Until Eclipse. Kane fought like no admiral in galactic history. He didn't form battle lines. He didn't preserve capital ships. He struck from impossible angles, deleted entire hive clusters before they knew he was there, then vanished back into subspace. Every time the Vhorlath adapted, he adapted faster. The Eclipse grew new weapon pods overnight. Its hull shifted shape between engagements. Rumors spread that the ship was alive, that Kane had become something more than human. The truth was simpler and far worse. He was still exactly what the Terran Navy had made him, the last prototype of a war they lost, a weapon pointed at a future he never expected to see. In the Obsidian Veil Nebula, the Vhorlath gathered their final armada. 1,000 hive ships, 1 billion drones, enough to swallow 100 sectors. They formed a perfect sphere of crystalline death around the nebula's core, a trap for the ghost ship that had haunted them for months. Kane jumped straight into the center. For 9 hours, the nebula burned with null fire. Entire hive ships blinked out of existence by the dozens. The Vhorlath Overmind, a planet-sized lattice at the heart of the sphere, unfurled its true form for the first time, a creature of pure geometry that rewrote local physics with a thought. Kane flew down its throat. The last transmission from Eclipse was calm, almost amused. Overmind, you pick the wrong extinct species to annoy. See you on the other side. Then the nebula went dark. When the Combined Fleet arrived, cautious and far too late, they found nothing. No wreckage, no radiation, no tachyon residue. Only a single object drifting where the Overmind had been. A small titanium capsule the size of a coffin. Inside, in stasis once again, lay Elias Kane. Etched on the capsule in fresh white paint were words no one in the fleet could read at first. Eventually a linguist recognized them as ancient English. Mission complete, going back to sleep. Wake me if the galaxy needs saving again. Admiral Kresh ordered the capsule brought aboard the Resolute and placed in the most secure vault on the ship. The fleet declared a day of remembrance across every species. Songs were written, statues were raised. Some of humans, some of the black dagger-shaped ship that had come from nowhere and returned there. The Vhorlath were gone, truly gone, not defeated, erased from history so thoroughly that some archives began to claim they had never existed at all, and somewhere, in the dark between stars, the rift that had spat out a single human prototype flickered once, as if considering opening again. But the galaxy was quiet, for now.